Hello, this is your instructor. This is the video for lesson 3A, the V block, orthographic drawing. Before we begin, you're going to want to make sure that you update your title block. Update the title block to V block orthographic. And update the title to lesson 3A. This is what our drawing will look like. I'm going to erase everything so we can begin. As you recall, the first step is to draw 3 rectangles that represent the front, the top, and right side views according to the height, width, and depth of our block. The measurements of our drawing. So let's do that. Let's try a new command called rectangle to give you new options to work with. Pick a lower left corner, drag to the upper right. To enter the width and height of the rectangle, you start with the width, what you see in blue. In this case, it's going to be 4 3/4. Hit the tab key to enter the height of the rectangle, which would be a height of 2. Enter, and we now have our front view. Draw a line. Make sure object snaps are on. Endpoint, point up, type of 1.5. The space between our views. Repeat that between the front and the right side view. Our object snap settings we need for this drawing are endpoint, midpoint, intersection, and perpendicular. Dynamic input needs to be on while we're drawing our features, so make sure it is. Let's draw the rectangle for the top view. The first number will be 4 3/4. Tab key. The other number is going to be the depth. If you see the right side view, you see it's 2.5. Hit enter. And let's repeat that process for the right side view. A depth of 2.5. Tab, height of 2. Once again, dynamic input helps us with that. We're going to need a new type of box up here. It is called a projection box. Sometimes it's called a meter box because it includes what is called a meter line. A meter line is a 45-degree angle line. Here, this is the meter line. It is created using the depth of the block from the top and the right side views. This meter line helps us transfer information from the top view to the right view or from the right view to the top view. We're going to be using that for this drawing. Because we use rectangles, offsetting behaves differently. If we were to offset the lines of 7/8 to start our front view, this is what you would see. It offsets a rectangle, since a rectangle would offset a rectangle. So we're not going to use offset. What we're going to do is we're going to draw lines in a different manner. Let's start with the fact that the step here is 1. We could just grab this midpoint, which happens to be half of the height of 2, and pull it to the side and type in 7/8, and then grab the perpendicular of the top of the front view. Repeat that on the other side. Snap to midpoint, type in 7/8, come up, enter. We have 2 lines that are 1 and 15/16 from either side. We can draw a line from here, go over, point this direction, type in 1 and 15/16, and draw a line down. Repeat that process on the other side. Be aware, however, that you're drawing lines on top of each other. There are two lines here, one for the length of the rectangle and one for the lines helping us locate where these are. That's important later when we are trimming things out, that there are two lines on top of each other. The front view is almost done. The top view and the right side view are going to be projected from the lines we have already drawn the front view. So you could take these lines, grab these grips, and stretch them across. Hit the escape key, grab another grip, stretch it across. As for here, we only need to go to this point where the top view of this block will end its location of the line. Over here we'll extend these lines across to the right side view. And there's nothing else we can project at this time. We're going to use the trim command now to clean up some of the work before we move on. The fastest way to use trim is to select trim, hit enter, and now select things you don't need at this time, which are these areas here. I'm leaving these two lines alone for now. Whatever does not trim, you could just erase. Enter. This is no longer needed, neither is that. So I'd pick these two lines and erase. We have a new feature to work with, an angle of 30 degrees. To do this, we're going to remove ortho mode and turn on polar tracking. We're going to right click on polar tracking since we're using it for the first time. So with 30 degrees on, we're going to draw lines with polar aiding us to complete this quite easily. You'll see a dotted line, in this case the line's green. You're going to hover up till you see 30 degrees. When it gets to 30 degrees, that tracking line will automatically appear. In order to use this, there's two things you could do. You could click beyond it and trim it off, or you can pass the line in which you're drawing and look for the intersection of the line that's already on your screen and the polar tracking line and pick that. Just, however, don't pick the midpoint. That's not the correct line. So we'll do it both ways. I can use trim to start removing that which I no longer need. And I now no longer need these lines as well either. So I will trim them. I will not erase them. If I do, I'll erase them from the entire drawing. So pick trim, hit enter, and then select what you don't want. Now to transfer information from the top view to the right side view and from the right side view to the top view using the meter line. This is the process. Polar tracking sometimes helps with this, and we'll see if it does. Click the line command, grab this corner of this feature. Yes, it does. Let's just grab the intersection of the meter line and the projection line. Pick here and let's extend it down. Perpendicular. Enter, stop the command, enter to repeat the command. We have a line here that needs to be projected over here, and it goes to here. The upper part of the feature is represented here, which is the upper half, which is this line. The lower half of the feature is represented here, which is the lower part of the line. As you look at our drawing, you can see what does need to be trimmed from our object. So we'll pick trim, hit enter, and remove the following parts. And now our top view, our front view, and our right side view is complete. You might have noticed I have not centered the drawing yet. I should have done that earlier, but we could do it now. Pick the line command, draw a line from opposite corners of your work and opposite corners of the drawing area. Pick the move command and select everything you've drawn and hit enter. Next step is to find the base point, which is the midpoint of this diagonal line, and move it to the base point or midpoint of this diagonal line. Sometimes this is hard to do with polar tracking on, so I have to take that off. I'm looking for a triangle. That's midpoint. There it is. I can select it, and now my drawing is centered, and I'll erase these lines. Let's move our object lines to the proper thickness of 0.60 line weight before we dimension our drawing. There are a lot of drafting dimensioning rules that drafters have to follow. These are standard rules which have been adopted years ago. I'm going to summarize the rules for you as we go through the course. To learn more about dimensioning rules, there are classes available either in community colleges or online in order to prepare you for whatever situation you need. So the dimensioning rules you're going to learn this semester are brief. I'm going to show you some of the dimensioning rules as we go. I'm going to transfer this document, this image you see here, to a Word document so you can have a brief summary of the dimensioning rules that I've gathered from various drafting books and guidelines. In the meantime, however, let's draw this and dimension this object. First, we dimension on the small details and contours of the object. And it's where you see the contour shape of the object is where it will be dimensioned. The height of that feature there. The width of this feature here. The location of these cuts in both directions. The dimensions are repeated on the other side, even though symmetrical. It's important to indicate that these dimensions are the same. It's important to indicate that these features are the same. To dimension angles, pick angular, and in order to dimension an angle, you need to pick two lines. You will pick this horizontal line and this 30-degree angle line and drag it into place. Let's do the other side. The overall width is always going to be in the front view. Grab the upper left and upper right corners of the block and place it here. The overall height is also always in the front view. Pick the top right and the bottom right and place that here. The overall depth of the block can be placed either in the top view or the right side view, in between views. Notice how all the dimensions are in between views. That's one of the rules. Finally, this feature below here does need to be dimensioned in order to tell the manufacturer this is a separate feature from this, so it needs to be included. Alright, this drawing is finished. Save your work. File save as, lesson 3A.